Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, text 17. Avinasi tu tadviri yena sarvam idam tatam vinasam avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati.
What verse are you reading?
Chapter 2, text 17. 217. Translation. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So in this chapter, chapter 2, text 17, is when the description of the soul started. Maybe for 10, 12 verses, there are descriptions of the soul given. So this is the first verse with the first description that the soul pervades the body, it's indestructible, and the soul is imperishable. There are other verses which describe the soul. Najayate miryate vakadachin nayam bhuta bhavita vana bhuyaha ajo nityaha sashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamani sharire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existent, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinati naroparani tata sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyate navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up old and useless ones. So we see these verses, and which verse do you think is more descriptive of the soul? The one that I just read, that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Or this verse, for the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existent, primeval, and he is not slain when the body is slain. So which one do you think is more descriptive of the verse? Of the soul.
So, this book describes in different angle. Don't use that. This one, don't use that.
Okay, so the question is, which one is more descriptive or more clear about the nature of the soul?
Descriptive, both of these, but comparatively I feel Vashangshi Jinani Jatha Vihaya, this one.
Okay, anybody get any other opinion? Alright, so that verse that you name, Vasamsi, is very descriptive. It has like about 12 adjectives describing the soul. For the soul there is no birth, no death, He has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come to being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existent, primeval. He is not slain, the body is slain. So that verse has more description, right? So it seems to describe the verse more. But let's hear what Prabhupada said about the first verse, right? He said, this verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul. So, although that verse gives a lot of adjective describing it, this verse Prabhupada is saying it gives a more clearly it more clearly explain the real nature of the soul. Now, the first one that I read, that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So Prabhupada is saying that this verse more clearly describes the soul than these other verses that actually follow. And these other verses, they seem to be more descriptive. They have more adjectives. Actually, if you check the, I think, 10, 12 verses, there's about 24 adjectives that describe the soul. It's on immeasurable, insoluble, invisible, immutable, like that, 24 adjectives that describe the soul. But here Prabhupada said that this verse actually explains the nature of the soul more clearly. Right. So, the nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. What is spread all over the body? What is spread all over the body? The soul consciousness, right? And this is what Prabhupada said. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada is going to explain why this verse more clearly explain the nature of the soul, right? He's going to explain about the consciousness that pervades the entire body, that is spread all over the body, even into every cell of the body. And he's going to explain the nature of that consciousness that is spread all over the body. He's going to explain the size of the soul, and he's going to explain also how the soul, how this consciousness from the soul is spread throughout the body. The mechanism through which the soul, the consciousness from the soul, is spread throughout the body. Because everything works through a mechanism, right? Like you have a car, a machine, and there are various parts of this car. There's the starter, the alternator, the battery, even a little screw. Everything serve a purpose, and it all work together to create some effect. So in the same way, the body is like a machine, and all the parts are working together to create the effect of consciousness throughout the body. And in this verse, Srila Prabhupada is going to explain how that happens. So we're going to try to read the verse and go with Prabhupada's, the points that Prabhupada is making. Okay, so anyone can understand that what is spread all over the body is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pain and pleasure of the body as part or as a whole. This spreading of the consciousness is limited within one's own body. So the first point about this consciousness is that the consciousness present in our body only is limited to our own body, right? The consciousness doesn't go out. My consciousness, you can understand what I'm going through my consciousness, the pains and the pleasure I'm feeling. Only the consciousness that is present in my body, I can feel that. And the pains and pleasure of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, or the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. So, Prabhupada is explaining that why we can't feel another person's consciousness is because the soul is individual, right? And because it's individual, the feelings of pains and pleasures and desire and everything else is limited within one's particular body. It's not spread outside of that. And that is because of the individuality of the soul. So sometimes people think, some school of thought is that because the soul is spiritual, because the soul is Satchitanand, and because the Supreme Lord's soul is Satchitanand, and we have the same qualities of that soul, then we're one with the Supreme. And when we die, we merge into the Supreme, and we become one with the Supreme. So here Prabhupada is explaining why that understanding is false. Because we don't experience anybody else's consciousness, because the soul is individual. If it was the case that we could merge with other souls, we would experience their experience. But this is not so. So the size of the soul is given in this purport. When the upper portion of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the division of the spirit soul. And there's another verse which says, there are innumerable particles of spiritual atom which are measured as 1/10,000th the upper portion of a hair. So this is the size of the soul given, that it's 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. If we take a hair and we try to look at the hair from the top of it, we cannot see that hair, right? If it's lying a long way like that, we might see. But if we're looking at it like this, and the hair is pointed directly to our eyes like this, we can't see even the tip of the hair. So 1/10,000th, is invisible. And so even though, and there are innumerable souls like that are infinitesimal, and these infinitesimal souls, they are so tiny, but yet they permeate the entire body, right? Very, very, infinitesimal, so very small, but yet the effect of that soul is felt throughout our body. Even if the body is very small, like an ant, the soul, the consciousness from that soul is felt throughout that body. If the body is that of an elephant, as big an elephant, still that same spirit soul, its effect is felt throughout the body. Or in previous ages, when they say we have dinosaurs that were like 6 stories high, right? And they also have one little tiny soul, and the effect, the consciousness is felt throughout that. So that is the power of this the spirit soul. And the body, which is made up of material matter, is dead tissues or materials, or what we can call dead energy. They are energy, but the nature of it is that it's dead. It doesn't display any consciousness, the body. So the soul is the thing that gives consciousness to the body. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than that of material atom, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body, as the influence of an active principle of some medicine is spread throughout the body. So Prabhupada compare the spreading of consciousness from the little tiny spiritual spark to that of medicine. You take a little bit of medicine, and if you have pain throughout your body, then you can feel the effect of that medicine throughout your body. So there is Prabhupada is using that example to compare the effect that the soul has over the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness. This current is an energy. Current can be used as in the term like a current affair, right? Which means that there's news that is present. At this present time, there is some news that is going on. So you have like current news that is going on. But here, this current is used as a noun, and it means it's like a wave, an energy. So the energy of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness. And that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus the consciousness is a dead body. And this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. So Prabhupada is saying that any person can understand this, that the consciousness is spread over the body. Even a layman, even an ordinary man, even a person who doesn't have any, that is illiterate, cannot read or write, they can understand that the consciousness coming from the soul is spread all over the body, and that is why the soul have consciousness. And that when the soul leave and there's no consciousness, and we call that body dead, there's no consciousness because the soul has left. No, one doesn't have to be a scholar to understand this. And if one understands this, even if that person is illiterate, doesn't know to read or write, that person, if he understands this, that person is said to have perfect intelligence. Whereas a material scholar, he might have so many degree, PhD, and he is known as very intellectual, but if he doesn't understand this point, then his intelligence is not said to be perfect. And once the soul has left the body and consciousness has left the body, nobody could restore consciousness to the body. In the 1960s, when they were making leaps and bounds in science, there was some stuff going around that the scientists, they can create life in the laboratory. And I know I was in Guyana then, and the devotee says some devotee challenged the scientists that I'm going to give you $1 million if you can create life in the laboratory, or I'm going to give you a perfect body. Somebody just died, and I'm going to give you this body. You don't have to create a body. Just put back life, just put back consciousness, just put back life into that body. That cannot happen, right? Because the soul is the actual thing that gives consciousness to the body. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. Is situated within the heart and spread its influence all over the body of the embodied living entity. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. So this is a bit of a technical explanation given here, or information, that the soul is in the heart and it's cushioned by 5 kinds of air, life air, right? The atomic soul is floating in 5 kinds of air. So that's a very technical information, and that information is used by the Hatha yogis, who have to move the life air within their body by suitable practice, yoga practice, and then they can live the soul out of the body, right? The Hatha yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air, encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures. Not for material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of material atmosphere. So, Prabhupada said the practice that the Hatha yogis are doing is not for profit. Like we see nowadays, there are so many yoga centers, people charge some money, you do some exercise, some gymnastic, but that is not the purpose of Hatha yoga. It is for that practice is to purify these 5 airs that the soul is floating on. And when that air is purified, then automatically the consciousness within the body also become purified, because this air carries the contamination of our material life. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literature. It is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the sane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. Right? So Prabhupada is explaining that because anyone can understand that they're feeling this consciousness within their own body, and they're not feeling the consciousness of other bodies or from other souls, then they can understand that they're not Vishnu Tattva. Only Vishnu Tattva, only Supreme Lord, can experience the consciousness of everything. Why he can do that is because every single thing is his energy, and he's totally cognizant, aware of every single atom of his energy. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity. And because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from that part of the body. So Prabhupada is saying that the material scientist, because the soul is so infinitesimal, so small, it's invisible. Apart from it being very small, it is spiritual in nature. And the simple fact that it's spiritual in nature, it means that we can't see it. We here in the material world, we can't see anything that is of spiritual, is of the spiritual nature. So because the scientists, they can't see that, then, through their experiment, they're not seeing it, so they conclude there is no soul. And one point here is that the soul is situated in the heart. That is the resting place, or the sitting place for the soul is the heart. And the scientists can understand that from the heart is a center from which energy is flowing. So Prabhupada is going to explain this some more. The corpuscles which carries oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. So why the energy is the center for that energy is the heart, Prabhupada explained, is because the soul is sitting in the heart. And the blood has to go through the heart. And it is saturated with oxygen. It becomes oxygenated. And apparently that condition seems to create a suitable condition for the consciousness to be absorbed by the blood corpuscles, and then that blood corpuscles with the oxygenated blood travels to every single cell of the body. And so the body experiences consciousness because the blood is the medium through which this consciousness is transferred. If somebody, tie part of the, say they tie their hand very tightly to stop the flow of blood from their hand, and they do it very long, that hand would become dead. No consciousness. So we can see that this mechanism of the soul consciousness is being transferred through the blood, through the oxygenated blood, and goes to every part of the body. And that is how the Hare Krishna. And that is how consciousness is spread throughout the body. So this is why Prabhupada say in the first sentence that this verse more clearly explain the real nature of the soul. The real nature of the soul is consciousness. So this verse is explaining that consciousness that is coming from the soul. The consciousness that is coming from the soul is said to be one with the soul. just like the sunlight. You have the sunlight, the sun rays, heat coming from the sun, light coming from the sun, and they're separate, and at the same time they are one. They cannot be separated. So that is the consciousness of the soul. It's a separate thing, and at the same time it cannot be separated. Just like with water, the wetness of water and water cannot be separated. Saltiness and salt cannot be separated. So this is the nature of the consciousness emanating from the soul, that is, it cannot be separated from the soul. And this consciousness, through the mechanism, because it's resting in the heart, the blood has to pass through the heart. The blood picks up oxygen, and through that means it disperses this consciousness throughout the body. And as soon as the soul leaves the body, then that's the end of consciousness. No more consciousness. Medical science accepts the importance of when the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generation fusion ceases. So the blood, it fuses with the oxygen, and when the soul leaves, that mechanism stops. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the soul, that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. So the medical scientists, they can understand certain things, that the energy is coming from the heart, but why it's coming from the heart and what kind of ignites it, they doesn't know. They don't know that. So here Prabhupada is explaining that they don't know that the soul is responsible for that. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. So Prabhupada explained, just as there are innumerable atomic particles that are present, and we understand that, also there are innumerable radiant molecule or particles, spiritual spark, that are there. It is said that the soul is emanating from the body of the Lord, specifically Mahavishnu's, and these soul are emanating like sparks, leaving the body of the Lord. So Prabhupada is comparing that to the sunshine molecules leaving the sun. So this is explicitly described in Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead. That's the end of the purport. Hare Krishna. So anyone has any comment, question?
I have a question immediately here. You were talking about the soul being a particle, and it's separate from God, and the soul is in the body, and through consciousness the soul is spread throughout the body. So my question is, what is the soul supposed to do You know, eventually the soul will be ejected from the body. What is it supposed to do?
Well, the soul is not just an atomic energy or spiritual energy. It is a sentient being. It means the soul is a being with feelings, emotion, desires, and all these things. So the soul is coming from God, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, and Krishna is a sentient being, right? He is the supreme sentient being, and we are coming from him, and we are an infinitesimal sentient being, and innumerable sentient beings are coming. And it is said that the purpose of that is that the Lord multiply for his enjoyment. He does all these things. He expand whatever is in the spiritual world and material world and whatever else he created is for his enjoyment. So the soul is meant for the enjoyment of the Lord, which means that the soul is supposed to serve the Lord for the Lord's enjoyment. And originally, that is for the Lord personal enjoyment with his what you call his pleasure potency, Radharani, right? And all the souls are there to help facilitate the enjoyment of the Lord. But when the soul, somehow or the other, have some inclination not to do that, how that comes about, we don't know. Because it is said that the spiritual world doesn't tolerate even a flim of impurity. So if in the spiritual world there's no impurity, how did it came about that the soul became impure from the spiritual world, or some thought, right, of not wanting to serve Krishna came about? But that is our understanding. That is what is given by the acharyas, and we accept whatever is given by the acharyas without question. So even if some things are unexplainable, we accept from the acharyas, from the pure devotee of the Lord, that this is what happens. So somehow or the other, the soul, the spark that is emanating, they desired to be apart from God, not wanting to be in his service. And in that way, the need came for the Lord to create the material world. And he sent all the souls there and said, well, you don't want to worship me, it's okay. Go there, do your thing. You don't have to think about me. So this world was created for us not to worship God, but to do our own thing and be God ourselves and control everything and enjoy everything. But when we come to understand the nature of this world and we say, hey, we don't like this world. It's full of dukh and sukh, happiness and distress and miseries and all these different things. What is it that is going on here? And we start to question it and we try to find answers. That is when we're directed by the super soul, like Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, that the super soul is there with the soul. The super soul guide us or send someone to help us to find answers. But that only happens when our desire is very has a certain amount of sincerity, that whatever the Lord give us, we're going to take it and make some use of it. Sometimes people think they have desire for understanding God, but maybe the desire is not so strong or pure. And Krishna knows that. He knows everything. So when that desire is sincere and pure, then Krishna initiate something and let us start to understand about the soul and about himself and about the spiritual world. And so I don't know if I answer your question or...
No, it was a good answer. So today we're here because of the commemoration of the departure of Bhagavan Narahari's brother. And next week we'll be here for another departure of the sister of Pradeep Day. So what happens when the soul leaves the body?
Well, within the scriptures, there are many different kinds of descriptions that are given about what happened to the soul. Many different kind of description given in different scriptures about things that happen to the soul. What we understand is based on the activities that we are performing, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, sinful, pious, what our consciousness is at the time of death, then there are so many different scenarios that can happen to the soul, right? It can become a ghost, you know. It can be taken to Yamraj Lok and, you know, given some punishment and some reward. It can remain without a material body for, you know, different lengths of time. We see sometimes, we hear stories of ghosts existing for hundreds of years and haunting houses and stuff like that. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explained that when one is a devotee, based on his advancement, then he is given different situation, right? If you practice a little and we have more material desire, but we're practicing a little, then, you know, some facilities will be given to us. And if we practice very sincerely and we're dedicated and we have made some inroad, then we would be placed in a situation where we can continue that spiritual unfoldment. So when the soul leaves, there, you know, we can't presume, we can't be presumptuous about where the soul is going, right? Even devotees, soul of a devotee, we can't say, oh, we know this devotee practices very sincerely like that. We don't know. The only person who knows is Krishna. We can say those things. There are nice things to say, but in reality, we don't know where that soul is going, you know. So there are so many things that can happen after the soul leaves the body.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have a question? Please come up here and speak into the microphone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Which way?
Prabhuji, when soul leaves the body, like we have the funeral, the 4th day, the 10th day, the 12th day. As part of the karma, soul has to go and get what it did as per karma and then take a next birth or whatever happens, whatever is decided in that court for them, for that soul. This, us waiting for the 4th day to happen, the Chautha, the Dasvi, the Barsi, and all those days that we do, is that like the soul is already gone? We still have to do this because to make that soul happy, or then we have to do this 30 days to feed Brahman, cows and things like that. But soul is already gone, and soul is probably gone to another birth already, or to Krishna. But what are we doing here?
What is the benefit of those practices? Those are given in scriptures to practice these different various, you know, things that are being practiced, and it does have some effect for the soul because it's there in the scripture and you don't question scripture, so it's recommended. How much of it, how effective that is another question, right? We have instances in the scripture where these performances are being practiced or performed by very, very elevated, qualified brahmanas, and they have no effect. There's a story of Dundunkari and Gokarna, right? Gokarna and Dundunkari. And then Dundunkari was the evil brother who did all kind of evil things, right? And his father had to leave the house and go away to the forest. The mother, I don't know if he ended up killing her, but he did so many things. And then he went and stole from the king. And he had like 3 wives living with him, and the wives became afraid that the king's soldiers is going to come and discover this jewel, and they are going to be implicated. So they decided to kill him. So they killed him and buried him in the house, and they left. Somehow his brother, Gokarna, who was very, very spiritually elevated and pious, he was on pilgrimage, and somebody told him that your brother passed away. And he performed all the shraddh perfectly, right? And then when he came home, then he could hear the crying of his brother in the form of a soul, and that he was not liberated. So that has no effect. Practiced by a perfect, pure Brahmana, very elevated, it has no. But still, it's there in the scripture. It's recommended to be practiced by certain people who have different understanding, right? For devotees who have the highest understanding, that is not required. Simply one thing, chant Hare Krishna. Whether soul is present here, present anywhere, dead, whatever, we can chant for all the souls throughout the universe by chanting Hare Krishna. So, and also I think maybe it's good for the people that do these things, because they're not so intelligent spiritually, they don't have knowledge, and by them doing this little thing, they kind of maintain or retain some kind of piety for themselves, that they can gradually move up. Because the whole scripture is set for that purpose, right? Krishna take care of everyone, from the ant down, to the greatest saint. He provides for everybody to make advancement in consciousness. So it's good for the people who are on that level to actually do the practice that keep them pious. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wonderful lecture you gave. I just want to say the most interesting scientific fact you gave was when you said blood is the medium through which consciousness is conducted. And that reminded me of one colored plate in Second Chance, where they said like a cardiac arrest patient may undergo out-of-body experiences in which they observe their own resuscitation. What do you make of that? Or
I can't hear it. Speak into the mic.
I can't remember what I said.
You were talking about resuscitation of the cardiac arrest.
Oh yeah. That scientific fact you gave reminded me of the Second Chance colored plate, where cardiac arrest patients were undergoing out-of-body experiences in which they observed their own resuscitation, and I wanted to know what you make of that, or
Well, they have that experience, NED, near-death experience, it's called. And it's kind of, on the internet, there's so many people having different experience, but it's of the same substance. Sometimes I do, listen to those things and stuff like that, because it kind of helped me connect with myself as a spirit soul, kind of remind me. And there is everybody, there's a common thread that run through their experience, that where these souls end up, in this realm, the trees have consciousness, the water have consciousness, everything have consciousness, the flowers have consciousness, and that is the description of the spiritual world, right? So there, I remember this one lady, she said she got this near-death experience, and she got floated out into this beautiful garden, and she was drawn toward this tree with this beautiful flower. And as she was going closer and closer to the flower kept expanding and expanding and expanding, and she got into the flower, and the flower embraced her. And one description that everyone gave is that it's love, pure love. And that is our understanding of the spiritual world, pure love. Pure love it has no tinge of materialism, right? So they say they're embraced by this pure love, and everything is, emanating love, the trees, everything. So whatever experience they have seems to be, in line with what we understand of the spiritual world. Could it be that they went to Brahmalok? Because Brahmalok is said to be almost as good as the spiritual world. People don't die there. They just leave their body, move on, go to the next destination. There's practically no anxiety there and stuff like that. Most people worship God as the creator, right? So maybe, from our understanding, they could be worshiping Brahma. And when they have these experiences, maybe they could be going to Brahmalok. I'm just speculating, But, these things are possible from the information that we have, that it is so varied and so many different experiences that is out there, and so many varied situations throughout the world, throughout the universe, that, it could be somewhere in the material world. It could also be to the spiritual world, depending where the Supreme Lord want to take them. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think that's it.
Any other questions from our group here? Okay, I want to really thank you for that nice class, Jamuna. That's a really excellent class.
Hare Krishna.
You covered so many important points about the soul, and it's a timely subject for what we're collected together here. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.